أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. I think this topic will be really interesting because the topic when it comes to the purification of the soul, I would say one of the most important topic you're ever going to learn in your lifetime. Because brothers, these are the main tools. These are the main tools where you go to the pinnacle of your heart. That is nafsul mutma'inna. That is nafsul mutma'inna. Jalla wa ala, it says in Quran-al-kareem, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. O healthy heart, irji'i ila rabbi, come to your Lord. Radiyatan mardiyah. So radiyah, he's pleased and he's pleased with them, you're pleased with the Jalla subhanahu. فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. And brothers, as we know from the istiqra min al-ulama, from the study of the ulama, there are three types of heart. And nafsul mutma'inna, nafsul lawwama, and nafsul ammaratun bisu. The healthy heart, the dead heart meaning the ill heart, meaning that he always goes back to sin regularly. And then nafsul lawwama, the blaming heart. Okay? For the past 100 years, the psychologists of the world, they're getting to realize this. In the past 100 years, mainly after the World War II, when many of the soldiers were traumatically affected, that's when the study of psychology expanded. And Quran-al-kareem is already there. Brothers, in Quran-al-kareem, Jalla subhanallahu azza wa jal mentioned tazkiyah more than 53 times. In Quran-al-kareem, he mentioned more than 53 times, actually 54 times. In Surah al-Makkiyah comes 23 and the remaining from Medina. Okay, we know Quran al-Kareem being revealed in Mecca and then Medina. So in Mecca, Jalla subhanallahu azza wa jal, he talks about tazkiyah. At such a time when people's hearts were dead, they were waiting for revival. They were waiting for revival in Mecca and in the Arabian Peninsula in general. To such an extent, what do you mean by tazkiyah first and foremost, brothers? Tazkiyah, in other discipline, they say tasawwuf. Tasawwuf is a bit more Sufistic orientated discipline where they use tasawwuf. But we say tazkiyah. Is more correct from Quran al-Kareem. Okay? Tasawwuf is mainly going to be people of the Suf, Ahl al-Sufa, so they use tasawwuf. This is spend a lot of time in the masjid, and they were many of them was famous, prominent Sahabas. They were cotton, so they're called Ahl al-Sufa. So tasawwuf came from them, Sufa from the cotton. Okay? Now, Jalla subhanallah azza wa jalla, he says what? In Surah Shams, for example, he mentions 7 qasam. 7 times he makes qasam. He said, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَحَاهَا وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. And the heart that he purifies. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. And the most doomed person, the most wretched person is the one who corrupts the heart. Think about it. How important tazkiyah really is. Brothers, when you study fiqh, subhanallah, it's all qila wa qal. Imam Abu Hanifa has to say this. Imam al-Shafi'i has said this. The qawl al-mukhtar, the main opinion is this. Imam said this. Fulan said this. That's the real spirituality gone. Huh? But tazkiyah, what does it give you, brothers? It gives you a sense of, fulfillment. You know what I mean? It fills you up. Fiqh is what? Is application of the Islamic law. Application of the law when it comes to ibadat and mu'amalat. Very important. And then you have the fun, the art of recitation. You have the fun of hadith. It's very delicious. And then you have the fun of ulum al-Quran. Then you have the fun of tarikh, history. But tazkiyah, brothers, is different. But tazkiyah, I've realized, is at the same time very, very hard topic to talk about. Because tazkiyah has to be someone who already has tazkiyah within himself. But all of us, the way I see it, brothers, is we're on the same platform. Okay, we're on the same platform. Brothers, tazkiyah is such a thing. The heart is such a thing, brothers. Ibn Al-Qayum, he says, فَإِن لَمْ تُؤَدِّبُهُ يُؤَدِّبُكَ. If you don't straighten it, it will straighten you. Do you know what I mean? If you don't straighten the nafs, the evilness within yourself, if you don't straighten it, it will straighten you. Meaning that you can be a slave to your own nafs. Do you know what I mean? And you can feel it sometimes. You know what? You feel a bit kind of yucky in one's heart after time. You know, many people who don't have deen, they feel so yucky. They're so much indulged in muharramat, in haram to such an extent. They start feeling, when they see the haqq, the truth, it's too much for them to handle. It's too much for them to handle. And nafs is like a 10-year-old. It's like a little child. And you know, they say everyone's got a little child within themselves. They say that. What that really means, brother, is that the nafs, it doesn't want to expand. It wants to stay stagnant. It wants to stay stagnant. But the reality is, brothers, if you don't nourish the nafs, then that's a big problem. That's a big issue. Brothers, the adab we'll have in our classroom, quickly. Okay, if you have any questions, it's going to be at the end. It's going to be at the end. If I make any mistakes, please correct me at the end. We're all learners here. Okay? The book that I have in my hand, brothers, Al-Kafi, liman sa'ala an dawa shafi. Okay, the sufficient answer for the one who's asking for cure, for the one who's being cured. Okay, Al-Jawabul Kafi liman sa'ala an dawa shafi, or disease and the cure. Also, the book is called الداء والدواء. Brother, this book is very much celebrated among the ulama. I have seen no scholars apart from them saying, you know what, it's a very beautiful book I've read. It's an amazing book I've read. In fact, last night I was telling one of my private tutors, Ustaz, you know, this book and that, we were just discussing. He says, Ya Muhammad, هذا الكتاب رائع. It's a beautiful book. رائع جدا, it's a beautiful book. Because the author is amazing. The author is someone very unique. Brothers, you know, the book is authored by Ibn Al-Qayum al-Jawziyah. Ibn Al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, the student of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he had amazing students. Some of them were more famous than the others. Okay? Ibn Taymiyyah had one of his favorite students called Ibn Al-Qayyim and Ibn Kathir and others. But Ibn Al-Qayyim, why he became really famous is because they call him the Tabib al-Qalb, the doctor of the heart. The doctor of the heart. Meaning, during his lifetime, he was able to give enough information, enough cure for the people who were suffering from disease of the heart. Now, brothers, I'm not talking about heart attack or heart problems. I'm talking about disease of the heart, meaning that, you know, evilness that stays within one's heart. You know, greed, anger, anxiety, depression, you know, all these kind of problem that occurs in one's heart. You know, sadness, confusion, doubt, shahwa, desires. These are issues of the heart, brothers. And guess what? Everyone has it. But everyone has to be in the process of what? Rectifying this heart that you have. Okay? فإذا صلحت صلحت الجسد كله. If it's good, then the whole body is good. وإذا فسدت فسدت الجسد كله. If it's corrupt, then the whole body is corrupt. Simple. That is ألا وهي القلب, other than the heart. So the heart, my brothers, is one of those things that, you know, it's a lifelong struggle. It's not something that what we're going to do, we'll be talking about giving enough tools. These are all theoretical and knowledge-based, but it is up to you how you take the tool. Do you know what I mean? It's up to you how you take on that information. Because, brothers, when it comes to the nafs, it's all about yourself. It's how you deal with it. When you're all alone, what are you going to do? When you have negative thoughts running around your head every single day, what are you going to do? If you've been tested with so much fitna, test and trials, what are you going to do? It's that knowledge that's going to help you. It's that understanding. It's that methodology of Al-Qur'ani that's going to help you. Brothers, when I pause, it just means I'm trying to find out more information, gather information. So when I do pause during the lesson time, then please don't think, try to be a bit more patient. Translating Arabic language to English, I've done it many, many times, but still, being a non-Arabic person and the typical Bengali is still going to be hard. Okay? So I need a lot of patience from you, brothers. Okay? I'll try my best, inshallah. Brothers, and وَبِهِ نَسْتَعِينَ. He says, سئل فضيلة الإمام العالم العلامة المتقن الحافظ الناقش شمس الدين أبو عبد الله محمد بن شيخ الصالح تقي الدين أبو محمد أبو بكر المعروف بابن القيم الجوزية رحمه الله. I just said his name, Ibn al-Qayyum. They had long names. The Arabs, they had long names. Okay? Ibn al-Qayyum was actually derived from his school that was next to the wheat shop. It's called Jawziyah. So he was the Imam al-Madrasa. He was the main Imam of the school. So they named him Ibn al-Qayyim. But his real name was Abu Abdullah. That's his kunya. Okay? وهو المعروف بابن القيم الجوزية. But his name was also Muhammad Abu Bakr. Muhammad Abu Bakr. Also, his people used to call him Abu Abdullah. Okay? Or later on when he passed away, he was known as, his madrasa expanded, and then they always refer back to Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah. Brothers, this book goes back to one question. One amazing question. And then the Sheikh sat down and gave a whole sharh of this whole question. Think about it. I'm going to give you the question. ما تقول سادات العلماء أئمة الدين رضي الله عنهم أجمعين في رجل ابتلي ببلية وعلم أنها إذ استمرت به أفسدت عليه دنياه وآخرته وقد اجتهد في دفعها في نفسه بكل طريق فما يزداد إلا توقدا وشدة فما الحيلة في دفعها وما طريق إلى كشفها فرحم الله من أعانى مبتلى والله في عون العبد ما كان العبد في عون أخيه أفتونا مأجورين رحمكم الله تعالى. He says, what does the ulama of Islam say about a person who is being tested and trialed? About a man who's been tested and trialed ببلية, with an adversity, something really difficult. وعلم إذا استمرت به وعلم أنها إن استمرت به, and he knows if he continues in that thing that he's doing, أفسدت عليه دنياه وآخرته, then he will corrupt his dunya and the hereafter. وقد اجتهد في دفعها في نفسه بكل طريق, and he tried his best in coming out of it in many different ways. فما يزداد إلا توقدا وشدة. Nothing happens except it continues. It's much more heated and much more difficult. Then he said, فما الحيلة في دفعها. What is the trick, or what is the trick of the game? What's the secret in coming out of it? وَمَا طَرِيقُ إِلَى كَشْفِهَا. What is the pathway in discovering this exit point? فَرَحِمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ أَعَانَ مُبْتَلَى. May Allah Azza wa, then he says to the Shaykh, may Allah Azza wa Jal have mercy upon the one who is aiding a person who is in difficulty. Then he says something amazing. Wallahu fi awn al-abd. Allah Azza wa Jal will only going to say help a person, will always going to be in aid of a mu'min. Ma kana al-abdu fi awn akhi, so long he is helping his brother. Aftuna ma'jurin. give us a fatwa, explain to us please about this person. Then he stays there. You don't understand. Any question about the question? Any question about the question itself? You don't understand. Brothers, guess what he was going through? What difficulty he was going through? The sharh of this is the book, but what difficulty is going through? Brothers, what difficulty does men go through? Tell me. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Women.
Yes. He was going through difficulty with a lady. Al-ishq. Al-ishq. Brothers, not love, not hope, but ishq. Ishq meaning he knew a lady that wasn't halal for him. Brothers, think about it. They were living under the Khilafah and that's what's happening. Think about it. They were living under the Khilafah, brothers. Brothers, Ibn Al-Qayum, he was living at a time at the second phase of the Abbasi Khilafah. Now the Abbasi Khilafah ran for more than 600 years. The first 300 years was the strongest point of Islamic history. In the 300 years was the da'af, was the weak. It was getting a bit weak because of the Crusaders, because of the Templars, because of the kuffar of the Europe. They're trying to attack the Muslim Ummah in different way. And then we know from the historical point, the Uthmani Khilafah had to take over. The Uthmani Khilafah had to take over because the Arabs, as we all know, they were power grabbing, just the way they're doing it today. They're power grabbing. It's all about my territory. Don't come to my territory. I'll kill you. I'll fight you. And then they start chucking bombs at them. That's what they do. That's what the Arabs do. Unfortunately, historically, even now. So at that time, the Khilafah at that time was going to the weakest point. Despite being the weakest point, think about it. Think about it. That person is being tested with ishq. Subhanallah, ishq. Ishq is different from hub. Hub is love and compassion. But what is ishq? Ishq is when you go crazy for a lady. You go crazy because of a lady. Subhanallah. Ajib. But then he mentions about something different. Then he says, فَرَحِمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ أَعَانَ مُبْتَلَى. May Allah Azza wa Jalla have mercy for the one who aids. For the one who aids a person in adversity. Now look what the question I said. Look, brother, he had a group of brothers, he had a group of students and tullab with ilm in front of him. Look at the question. Because the next going to be all answers. Look at the zealousness of helping the brother. Look at the question. رحم الله من أعان مبتلى. May Allah Azza wa Jalla have mercy upon the one who aids a person in difficulty. When we find someone through difficulty, what really happens? May Allah Azza wa Jalla help you out, and that's it, just walk away. There's no real help. That's what happened with brothers. There's no real help. You're just gonna, talk to him, give some few words, and just walk away. But the real test comes when you can really, help him. You can really do something within your ability. Because brother, you can't move a mountain, but you can remove a couple of kg of stone. That's what you can do. And look at those brothers. Look at the talib. Look at the student. He's asking a question for his brother. He's asking a question for his brother in difficulty because he thinks that his friend going to lose his deen. Then he says, فأجاب الشيخ الإمام العالم شيخ الإسلام مفتي المسلمين شمس الدين أبو عبد الله ابن أبو بكر أيوب الإمام المدرسة الجوزية رحمه الله. Then he replies, الحمد لله فأما بعد فقد ثبت في صحيح البخاري في حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال ما أنزل الله داء إلا أنزل له شفاء. وفي صحيح المسلم في حديث جابر بن عبد الله قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لكل داء دواء فإذا أصيب دواء الداء برأ بإذن الله. Then he gives an amazing hadith. Ibn Al-Qayyim rahimahullah gives an amazing hadith. He says that been narrated by Imam al-Bukhari, and this hadith is also narrated by more than, is hadith al-mutawatir, meaning that more than X number of Sahaba they narrated this hadith. So it can't be any kind of da'if hadith, because some of the things that Ibn al-Qayyim also mentioned that really doesn't have a sanad, okay, but in its meaning is correct. Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentions certain aqwal, certain statements that is not really much has a isnad, but meaning wise it makes sense. So this one here is authentic. It's a hadith al-mutawatir narrated more than 20 sahabas. He said, ما أنزل الله داء. Allah Azza wa Jal hasn't sent any kind of ailment, any kind of disease, إلا أنزل الله شفاء, except that He has sent the cure. وفي صحيح المسلم في حديث جابر بن عبد الله قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لكل داء دواء, for every disease there's a cure. فإذا أصيب دواء الداء برأ بإذن الله. If he finds the right cure, if he finds the cure for that illness, if he uses it properly, برأ بإذن الله, then he will be cured. Brothers, this hadith that Al-Qayum he mentioned is a hadith that is general, meaning that there is always going to be some sort of dawa, some sort of some kind of cure for any kind of illness. That's number one. Number two, this hadith is talking about the person, he will be cured so long he has certain prerequisites. Certain prerequisites, if he has it, then he will be cured. Number one, he needs to find the right one. Now brothers, the cure is not only talking about al-badaniyah, it's not only about the body, but it's mainly about the heart. It's mainly about the heart. Think about it. He mentioned this hadith about the person who's asking the questioner. Because that question goes to him, meaning he has issue with the heart. He has an issue with the heart. Okay? Now here, it's talking about the heart and how you come out of this difficulty that you're in. When it comes to disease of the heart, how you come out of it. Number one is istighfar. Is istighfar in coming out of any kind of difficulty of one's heart. Okay, istighfar. Number two, having full tawakkul. Having full tawakkul in coming out of the disease of one's heart. Tawakkul. But another issue comes about. What about a person who is suffering from an illness that is more got to do with psychological? Are you going to really give him Quran in the front and say, listen to me. Read 2 juz every single day. Can you really do that to someone who is suffering from a type of illness that is psychological? What kind of treatment would that person has to go through? What kind of treatment does that person who is suffering from probably anxiety, probably psychological depression, what is the remedy? Brothers, number one, they need support in terms of communication. They need support in terms of talking to them much more often and listening to them. They need support in terms of giving them much more time, sitting down, taking them to nice places. That's going to be the first cure. When their mindset is ready, then you tell them, then you remind them about salawat. Because al-mashakilu dhihniyya, the problem of psychology, tufsidu din, it can ruin one's deen. Okay? This is where the mental illness comes in. When it comes to one's difficulty in one's psyche, it's not really understanding, can't even recognize itself anymore. What happened, brothers? They can lose their deen. They can lose their salah. They can lose their aqeedah. They can lose their belief. That's why the akhtar, the most difficult thing that a person goes through is the problem of one's heart, and that connects with the psyche. Brothers, لكل داء دواء. For every disease there's a cure. فإذا أصيب دواء الداء برأ بإذن الله. If he finds the right antidote, the right cure for his heart, برأ بإذن الله, he will be cured. وفي مسند الإمام أحمد من حديث أسامة بن شريك, من حديث مسند الإمام أحمد عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله لم ينزل داء إلا أنزل له شفاء علم من علمه وجهل من جهله وفي لفظ إن الله لم يضع داء إلا وضع له شفاء أو دواء إلا دواء واحد. قالوا يا رسول الله وما هو؟ قال الهرم. وقال الترمذي هذا حديث حسن صحيح. Then he says, Inna Allah lam yunzil. Again, the same hadith that Jalla wa Ala hasn't revealed any disease except that he has given a cure. Alima man alima. The one he knows it very well. Wa jahilahu man jahila. The one he doesn't know, he's very much ignorant. He will only gonna die in his ignorance. What does that mean? Alima man alima. Wa jahila man jahila. The one he knows, meaning that the one who finds the right answer for his issue of his heart, he can only go forward. He will only gonna go forward. And that's so true. Wa jahila man jahila. The one who's ignorant of it is very much ignorant, very much. You find that such an individual very much drowning in his ignorance. Very much drowning in his ignorance. دواء العمي السؤال وهذا يعم أدواء القلب والروح والبدن وأدويتها. And this presents the cure of the heart and the soul and its cures and its remedies. وقد جعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الجهل داء. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم has made the cure of the ignorance, has made the ignorance and illness. وَجَعَلَ الدَّوَاءُ سُؤَالُ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Then he has made the asking of the ulama to be the dawa, to be the cure. So if you don't know of something, then this is an illness. That's what Prophet Muhammad, that's what he's saying. If you don't know of certain issue, then this is an illness of oneself. This person can drown in that ignorance. That ignorance, my brothers, could be shak, could be a raib, it could be a doubtful matter, and he can lose his deen because of that ignorance. And that's why you find an individual who is constantly asking the ulama and the people of knowledge, you're always going to find him to be steadfast upon the deen. And that's so true. Someone who's asking questions regularly and finding out the right answers, you'll find such a person will always going to stay firm in his deen because he's got the knowledge. He's got the knowledge. Now what he does to the knowledge is up to him. He can either act upon that knowledge or he just keeps as information in one's head. For this reason, the hadith that he has mentioned, what's the time? 8:30. Okay. So the hadith that he has mentioned is from Abu Dawood in Sunan. من حديث جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال خرجنا في سفر فأصاب رجلا منا حجر فشجه في رأسه ثم احتلم فسأل أصحابه فقال هل تجدون لي رخصة في التيمم؟ قالوا ما نجد لك رخصة وأنت تقدر على الماء. فاغتسل فمات. فلما قدمنا على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أخبر بذلك فقالوا قتلوه فقتلهم الله. ألا تسألوا إذا لم يعلموا فإنما شفاء العمي السؤال. إنما كان يكفيه أن يتيمم ويعصر أو يعصب على جرحه خرقة. It's a bit of a long hadith. And he's talking about the ignorance. Now what actually happened, brothers, is that one of the Sahabi, this hadith, one of the Sahabi got afflicted by a stone from a mountain type. It's a bit high up. It's quite a big stone that actually, something happened to his skull. So he was kind of bleeding. It's kind of bleeding, but he wrapped his head round with a turban type, just to keep his blood, just to kind of take care of his wound. Okay, it was quite a big stone. Now, what happened was he went home. It was getting better. It was getting better because it's not a very new wound. It was getting better. But he's a man, so he went home. He slept with his wife, so he wanted to do ghusl. He wants to do ghusl from janaba. So he said to the Sahabas, to the major Sahabas, yeah, is there any? How can I do ghusl from my janaba? How can I do my ghusl? Because I've got a big thing on my head and water can touch it. He said, no, you can't. You have to make sure that the water touches the head, because that's how you do it. And then he put water in his head, in his thing. Then he got, all the microbes and all the, he got infected. Then he passed away. Then he died. And then they went to Rasulullah and said the whole story. Then he said, قَتَلُوهُ فَقَتَلَهُمُ اللَّهُ. He was really upset. Rasulullah, when he says those words, he was really upset because of the whole story. And then he said that, you killed him, then may Allah kill you lot too. That's what he said. You killed him, فَقَتَلَهُمُ اللَّهُ. Then may Allah annihilate you as well. He didn't really mean it as such. If he really meant it, then this Sahaba wouldn't have been there. But these are the best of the major Sahabas. He was upset, and rightly so. And then he said, أَلَا تَسْأَلُوا إِذْ لَمْ يَعْلَمُوا. Have you not asked me? Why didn't you ask me the fact that you never knew? فَإِنَّمَا الشِّفَاءُ لِعُمِّ السُّؤَالِ. Then verily, the questioning of a person who doesn't know is the remedy for his ignorance. You should have asked the people who knew it. إِنَّمَا يَكْفِيهِ أَنْ يَتَيَمَّمْ. It was enough for him to do tayammum, or just do wudu, or just to cover that wound and then throw water all over his body. He's wounded. So he can just kind of, just about not put water in his head, and just about the area where he can touch, and then he does the remaining of his body. And it was enough for him. And that's, from this hadith, we realize the problem many brothers also face. Many brothers who start practicing new. What they do, they don't want to find out the authentic information. They're not bothered about finding out the authentic information. They're busy finding the furu', finding the nitty-gritty things. And they're busy themselves with nitty-gritty things. That's not going to even increase their iman or anything. That's what many people, even I've met brothers about 50-year-old, and they're talking with me for 40 minutes about this matter. After putting the phone down, I said, you know what? What have I really achieved? He spoke about this matter and that matter. Has it really increased my iman by spending 40 minutes with that brother? It hasn't. But from the Bible, from the topic of learning, it is an ibadah, it is a worship. The fact that finding out the nitty-gritty things is also an ibadah, but for the newer ones, if you embark upon the deen new, it is best to go to the main usul, the main important parts of one's deen. Then he says, Al-Qur'anu shifa. Then he says, Al-Qur'anu shifa. وقد أخبر سبحانه عن القرآن أنه شفاء. فقال تعالى: ولو جعلناه قرآنا أعجميا لقالوا لولا فصلت آياته أعجمي وعربي قل هو للذين آمنوا هدى وشفاء. I'll go to Surah Al-Fussilat, verse 44. Sorry? Surah Al-Fussilat. Yeah, I don't have my phone. I want the correct translation, please. I don't want to miss out any. Surah Fussilat, verse 44. Which surah number is it? Fussilat. towards the end.
44 or 41.
Verse 44, brothers. Okay, or just write down Fussilat 44.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Go on, Tony.
And if we had made it a non-Arabic Quran, they would have said, why are its verses not explained in detail in our language? Is it a foreign recitation and an Arab messenger? Say it is for those who believe, a guidance and cure, and those who do not believe, in their ears is deafness, and he is upon them blindness.
Alhamdulillah. He said, in it, قُلْ هُوَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا هُدًى وَشِفَاء, guidance and cure. Brothers, this is my shahid. The shahid, brothers, as we all know, is the main key point. Shahid. Okay, in the text there could be wajhu dalala, there could be shahid. Shahid is my main key point here. Yeah. Now here, hudan wa shifa. Brothers, a person may be guided. A person might have guidance, but yet he suffers from all types of illnesses. Think about it. You know, many times, many brothers, they're in the deen, but they have this kind of issues that they've been facing, which is stems from the heart. Hudan wa shifa. How do you deal with that? Now, Jalla subhanallah azza wa jalla, he says, al-hudan wa shifa. Then he said, Quran-al-kareem, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And we have verily revealed the Quran-al-kareem. مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ, except it's a cure and a mercy for the believers. Okay, in Surah Al-Isra, verse 82. Then he says, فَإِنَّ الْقُرْآنَ كُلُّهُ شِفَاءٌ. That the Quran, all of it is actually shifa. Shifa al-ruhiyya, spiritual. Also badaniya, also your limbs. Pain in the, pain in the hands, pain in the leg, tummy ache. It's all shifa. How many of us actually realized? How many of us actually really felt it when you have certain pain? It doesn't go away. You had all these paracetamol, all this medicine. Nothing is going away, brothers. Days are going by. Nothing is really happening. Nothing is really happening till you start very much sincerely putting your right hand in where the pain is, and then you recite Al-Fatiha 7 times, Ayatul Kursi 7 times, the 3 quls, and all the surah that you know of by touching it. Then after one day it calms down. Who can tell me that story? I can tell you that happened to me hundreds of times. It happens. Brothers, this Quran-al-kareem, brother, is a shifa for the person who's suffering from evil eye. Evil eye, jealousy. You know how it affects one's body, brothers. This is a topic on its own. But most of the people you find, most of the female, they suffer from illnesses such as jealousy, evil eye, sihr, sihr magic, black magic, white magic, all those kind of things they suffer. But guess what? Alima man alima, jahila man jahila. The one who knows, he will know the cure. But jahila man jahil, the one who's ignorant, we're going to go to Firsab down the road to get conned. Or he will go to the Raq, he's running around busting ghosts every other day and getting charged £300 to £400 for a couple of sessions. That's what will happen. Alima man alima, jahila man jahila. The one who knows, he knows it. But jahila man jahila. Now here, brothers, the Quranic cure, it needs a proper understanding. The Quranic cure is very unique, brothers, but it has to be done authentically. It has to be done properly. Because when you're going to go for the Quranic treatment, it has to be done in such a way that any kind of doubt or any kind of deficiency doesn't come in the way. For example, it needs full reliance and sincerity. For such a person who lacks sincerity or reliance, then that cure will not gonna happen, or it will take time. It will take much more longer. Brothers, then he says, فهو الشفاء للقلوب من داء الجهل والشك من داء الجهل والشك والريب فلم ينزل الله سبحانه وتعالى من السماء شفاء قط أعم ولا أنفع ولا أعظم ولا أنجع في إزالة الداء من القرآن. Then he says that the best and the most safest and the most best and beneficial cure is actually from Quran-al-kareem. And you know, for you, many of the brothers here might be just information here, because they probably haven't really understood what I'm really saying. You have to be in the field of doing your ilaj for the people to actually really understand what I'm really saying. You have to really truly help someone as an individual or help yourself to really understand what I'm really saying. Brothers, I think about a couple of months ago, I'll tell you a story. So I got called in to go and help someone out. Okay, so what I do at time to time for the past 11 years, I help out people with Quran-al-kareem. Okay, so I give the prophetic medicine and I explain it to them. Okay, now this is something that I do for free. I don't charge at all, because Quran, everyone got Quran in the house. In fact, when I go to the house, I say, listen, bring me that Quran. I don't tell you, listen, you know, I'm someone extraordinary. Okay, I'm someone very unique. Give me that Quran that you have here. Then the elders of the family tell me, listen, come sit next to me. Let me teach you how you do it. Now that's such a person been suffering from hallucination and sleep deprivation, hallucination, okay, and depression for 10 years. 10 years. I'm going to only give you one story, brothers. I've got many stories, but I can only give you one because time is short. If need be, I'll mention more, inshallah. Since you're taking me as an instructor, someone teaching you, inshallah, try to give some experience from my personal experience. I don't really want to give my personal experience out as much, but you know, I'll probably give out some of my friends or colleagues' experience too, okay, and some of mine, just to kind of give a better understanding what I'm talking about, just to back up my points, okay. Hope that's fine, inshallah. Yeah. Sometimes some may be thinking, oh, you know, you're all there. You think it's all about you. It's not all about me here. Okay. I don't want to talk much about myself. I don't like talking about myself. I'm just like you, brothers. But maybe some of the experience in that 11 years I probably had, I can share. Okay. Just to let you know the amazement of the Quran-al-kareem and why I chose that topic specifically. Brothers, what I told her, so she's the elderly mother. She telling me her story, and I said to her, so boy, how do you pray? Tell me, please. She's like, like, no. Tell me, please, explain it to me. How do you pray? What's your intention behind your prayer? That's what she would say. Because she's an elderly boy in Africa, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, look, when you make the intention, can you please take a couple of minutes out from your cooking and chores and just make a firm intention that I'm going to be standing in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. I'll be standing in front of Allah Azza wa Jal and I'm going to be reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, and I'm going to be contemplating on Surah Al-Fatiha. I told her, listen, when you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, go back to the translation and look at it, and then concentrate on Surah Al-Fatiha, and please recite Surah Al-Fatiha properly. I said that to her. When you bow properly. I said, how do you bow? She said, no, I bow like a normal person. And obviously I bow. Then I said to the son, listen, tell me the honest truth. I'm to find out today. Today I'm going to find the truth. How do you pray? So she rushes. I said, if you're going to rush in prayer, then there's not going to be no cure. If you're going to be rushing your salah, then there's no cure. And then what happened was I said, listen, that's how you pray. And I showed her how to pray. And then I told her, when you recite Quran-al-kareem, how do you recite? She said in such a way, I said, do you know what? let me find out the truth. Let me ask your son, how do you pray? How does your mum recite? Look, my mum's tajweed is the best. That's another issue. You're not making effort in your tajweed. You're not making effort in your recitation. Okay, the morning and evening adhkar that the Avaraki has taught you, how do you recite? Tell me one only. She said once, and it was half of it was mistake. I said, look, when you're going to be asking the cure to the Most Majesty, Allah Azza wa Jalla, you need to be presentable. You have to be presentable. You have to ask him in such a way that you're presentable. You make wudu. You prepare it beforehand. Whatever chores that you may have, house chores or work and everything, put it aside. Get ready. Make your heart already, getting presented in asking Allah Azza wa Jalla. I said that to her. And subhanAllah, after 1 month, she became better. After 1 month. What I tend to do is I keep a good link with the people who are suffering. So most of the time, if it's a female, then I keep the husband and the wife with the WhatsApp group. So it's never ever talking to them privately, because it's haram. That's not allowed. If it's a mother, elderly lady, if she doesn't have no mahram as such, then her oldest children has to be present. That's how it works. And then you talk to them, not ever directly, but someone who is listening at the same time. So that's how you do professionally. So what happened was, I was keeping in contact with them for a month. So every 3-4 days, I would tell her. I would tell his son, how's mum doing? He was like 20-year-old that time. A couple of years back. He's a big man now. He said, look, she's doing better, subhanAllah, she's reciting, she's listening to Quran much more, and then she's getting better, she's getting her strength again, she's hallucinating again, and as I'm listening to those words, I'm getting amazed by myself. I'm like, what did I do, subhanAllah? Did I give them something extraordinary? Did I give them something? Did I even give them anything? Nothing. I only opened my mouth and said a few words to them. Listen, just do this and do that, you'll be better. But brothers, this cure is for that specific person with that specific ailment. Okay? What the hadith that I've mentioned here, okay? He said, وَإِذَا أُصِيبَ if he finds a specific treatment for that specific ailment, then he'll be cured. Okay? Sometimes people suffering from sihr, they don't get cured in 15 years because they're doing it all wrong. Because sometimes certain jinn, they need certain remedy. So when someone is possessed, my brothers, there's something called himaya to sihr, that's the jinn. The protector of the magic, that's the jinn. And then the sihr itself. The sihr itself could be hidden in the graveyards, or could be anywhere, or could be eaten with a morsel of flesh, or could be some kind of a food or water, or it could be marshush, meaning that they stepped on something. Different types of sihr that exist. That's the topic on its own, my brothers. I'm just telling you roughly, in generally. Okay? So, sometimes it needs a specific cure. Do you know what I'm talking about? You can't give one cure to everyone. Some raqis, what they do, they will go and say, you know what, do this, do that, it'll be better. But that's a general one he's giving you. He needs to dig more in, find out, question the person, interrogate that person, find out more to actually give the right answer. Do you know what I'm talking about? So when it comes to the actual cure, brothers, of any kind of illnesses, it needs the right remedy. It needs the right remedy. But here Jalla wa Ala says in Quran-al-kareem, he says that, Ibn Al-Qayum, he says here, Al-Qur'anu kulluhu shifa. The whole Quran is shifa. The whole Quran is shifa. Shifa from what, brothers? Shifa from anxiety. Subhanallah. Many a time I had to tell them, listen brother, or listen sister. Just listen, billahi alayk, just listen for 1 hour every single day. Just listen to it. Just listen to it. You'll feel much better. Can you do that? I pressure the husband to just tell his wife, listen, akhi, your marriage is going to break. You're in the breaking point of your marriage. Tell your wife to listen to you for an hour. Can you do that? yes, I can. So you have to raise your voice and listen. Tell her. Make her sit down and let her listen for 1 hour a day. And then they do it. Oh, okay, all right. But they go back to the child mode. You know, when the teacher used to tell them off. It's a bit of psychology treatment that you do with them. So you take them back and have their own little kids. You advise them a bit staunchly, then they listen to you. So you tell them, and then guess what? SubhanAllah, they become better within 30 days. Within 30 days, they become better. That's why I'm saying, Al-Qur'anu kulluhu shifa. Al-Qur'anu kulluhu shifa. Brothers, when I started that 15 years ago, I only read it. I never understood it. I read it. I went through it. I went through it with my teacher. So one of the first books I went through, back in 2008, when I was a learner in Arabic language. We went through it because my teacher thought, you know what, that's the best book to go through. Let's read it together, Muhammad. I said, no problem. You choose me a book and we'll go through it. For me, it was all about Al-Qur'anu shifa'un wa qad akhbara subhanahu anil Qur'anu annahu shifa. I never even bothered about, okay, shifa, okay, whatever. Okay, I know it's important. I know it's a shifa, okay. That's it. But brothers, after 15 years, after when the brothers told me purification of the soul, I went through all the books I've got. When I found this, I said, you know what, that's going to be the best book. That's going to be the best one available. Because it's going to be a good revision for myself, number one. And number two, I can give some information out to you brothers. To you brothers, that can be important for future and for yourself also. Brothers, I know I've spoken a lot about ruqya related, because the second hadith that I'm going to be mentioning, what's the time, Akhil?
8:55.
I'm going to wrap it up inshallah, but the next hadith for next week I'm going to be mentioning about more got to do with the ahkam related to ruqya. Why, brothers? Because many of us in this room are still ignorant of the issues of ruqya and how you perform it and how you deal with people who are doing ruqya and the mindset you should be having when it comes to dealing with ruqya. Because, brother, the reality is many of us in our lifetime might not even go through some difficulty when it comes to psychology or when it comes to sihr, when it comes to all the kind of psychological illnesses. But you may come across certain people who are. You may come across certain people who might be going through some sort of mental illnesses. How do you deal with all of that? How do you do it? You need knowledge. How you deal with it? It could be psychological. It could be more spiritual. But how do you understand both? If it's psychological, if it's spiritual, how do you understand all of those? Okay, I think those are very important matters. If today, for example, someone was to say, Allah forbid, for this not to happen, that's why we say in the dua, Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min zawali ni'matik. Oh Allah, we seek refuge from the annihilation of all the blessings that you have given us. Okay, Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min zawali ni'matik. Okay, but imagine, for example, one of your sister or your khala or maybe your mom or maybe your spouse have become possessed. What are you going to do? Are you going to start calling people up? Are you going to start calling people up and become like a business, it's like taking a car to the garage. £200, £300, £400. Or are you going to be the person, do you know what? I've got the Quran in my hand. I can do it. Forget the word. I've got Allah Azza wa Jal, mutawakkilan, tawakkul, and I've got Quran in my hand. So we'll understand more ahkam related to the hadith related to shifa. And then the book talks about the important dua that you recite, that your dua is going to be answered. He talks a lot about the dua. Then he talks about the misconceptions of understanding when it comes to dua. Then he goes more about the thinking positive about Allah Azza wa Jal and su'il dhan and negative thoughts about Allah Azza wa Jal. Then he talks about pardoning of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's beautiful. Then he talks about sin and its effects on a human psyche. Then he talks about how to come out of sin and how you make your heart much more softer with certain things that you can do to make it softer. Okay, brothers, we all suffer from hardness of the heart. We all do. You like, we will. Because we know from Iman, Al-Imanu yazid wa yanqus. Iman increases and it decreases. When Iman decreases, it doesn't mean I'm just going to stay there. My Iman is low, okay, I'm just going to sit there. I'm going to continue watching episodes after episodes at home. I'm just going to continue chilling with my negative friends. I don't care. I'm just going to sit there. Or I'm going to say to yourself, you know what, let me reason with myself. Okay, my Iman is low. How can I come out of it? Let me be a bit smart. If I'm committing sin day in, day out, I'm in trouble. So how do you come out of it, inshallah? Everything the author he mentions, and inshallah, if you're patient enough, bring more brothers over, inshallah, and we're still in the introduction, by the way. You haven't very much delved into the book yet, but inshallah, bring more people over, inshallah, we'll go through the book. And I try to explain as much as I can within my ability. And I try to stay away from personal experience. And if you don't, brothers mind, I'll give some of my experience. But I will mainly stick to the book, inshallah, because that's the main reason why we're here, to go through the book. أقول قولي هذا نستغفر الله ولكم وسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب إنه هو البر الرحيم. Any question, brothers?
Yeah,